Around the world, we're thinking about this theme and this idea of parallel. Everybody has their own life experiences of what parallel means. So sit in your experiences and your memories and align that to yourself. We're also going to have a great conversation today about what parallel can mean. But our global theme for parallel is to consider the themes of parallel in your life, from relationships to choices, to dreams, to time. What runs alongside but never intersects? What mirrors your journey? Where do paths diverge? And when is unexpectancy invited? Our speaker for today, Circe Wallace, is a former athlete turned agent and producer specializing in women's sports, action sports, and entertainment. With expertise in brand development, licensing, media strategy, she empowers athletes and creatives while producing acclaimed film and TV projects. Now at Wiserman, Circe continues to build long-lasting partnerships. Please give a round of applause for our speaker for today, Circe Wallace.
Let's jump right in. You actually grew up with two very creative parents in a creative environment, as them being artists. How did that lead into you into skating and into the snowboarding world?
I think I observationally looked at my struggling artist parents and was very much determined to have material success. For me, I appreciated their creative genius in their own respective worlds, but for me, I was very much driven by material things as because I didn't have them. We were relatively poor, and I bounced around a lot because they were divorced when I was quite young, and I kind of found my community in the streets, so to speak, and skateboarding for me was where I found my tribe. I was a little bit of what could have been a troubled youth, but skateboarding was a path of creativity in a different way. It was physical. There was something about, like, you really have to be in the moment when you're on a skateboard. You can't be, like, thinking about other stuff. It requires kind of a present moment presence and determination. It's like you learn how to ollie. That takes, like, a lot of commitment to something. And also within that community of skateboarders, just found, like, a like-minded friend group that made me feel like I was a part of something bigger than myself. And so that led to an opportunity to get out into nature on a snowboard. The first time I went snowboarding, I got hit in the head, on the back of the head, getting off the chairlift, by the chairlift, and bit all the way through my tongue. And still managed to have, like, the best day of my life. Yeah, I was, like, spitting blood, on the snow, and I felt real punk rock and, like, pushing through that. And there was something about being in nature while also being physical. It was like this magical environment. That, I didn't go snowboarding for the first time with my parents. I had never been on skis. This was part of my friend group in the skateboarding world in the Pac Northwest where I grew up. But for me, it was very much an instant love of this adventure and kind of set me on this path.
I love that you were able to turn that love into, after a profession and first an athlete, but then your career as an agent. You have defined yourself as a creative connector. How has that journey, what does that look like as an agent right now? And
yeah, I mean, I think for whatever reason, skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing, these things that I really fell in love with at an early age and got lucky from a time perspective. Like I was, able to like actually make a living in this thing that was fun and free and didn't have a lot of boundaries. I was inherently kind of anti-establishment, probably because of my lefty parents, who hated, structure. And both being creatives were just kind of like, just go make your way, go figure it out. And then I fell into these groups and this opportunity that really allowed me to be creative in kind of an unstructured environment, because I was like first generation professional snowboarder. In the late 80s, early 90s, it was like this new thing. And I was one of the few women in the space and was able to like actually, I was kind of inherently a good manager. Like I always managed my boyfriends. Like I would like do their sponsor me videos and like write their resumes for them, because I kind of always had this like inner ambition. And I liked doing that. It felt like I was being purposeful, not only for myself, but for my relationships. And wanted them to get more money so we could go on more trips or whatever, the objective was in the time. And so there was an element of creativity at that time because there weren't established structures. There weren't like a lot of existing pathways in these new kind of nascent sports, let's call them, that would certainly have evolved over time, right? Like we're in the Olympics now and it's all very structured. There's pathways, there's, farm competitions that help, you get to a certain place with a consistent trajectory. That didn't exist then. So I kind of got to participate a little bit in like how those things evolved in a meaningful way. And for me, like the transition from athlete or snowboarder or whatever, it's hard to even call it athletics, right? Because at that time it was very free. For me, once the career, and it was clear I had torn a couple ACLs, I had very kind of traumatic injuries that required a little more structure in my life, a little more consistency, a little less drinking alcohol, like all of those things that help shape you into adulthood. And I saw the writing on the wall that there's a pull date on an athletic career, and for me, I just knew that no matter what I was doing, I wanted to stay involved in the community that I had come up in. I wanted to participate in a meaningful way, and make a living, being able to continue to be in the spaces and to be in nature and to be amongst my peer group, and contribute to my community in ways that were meaningful. And inevitably, because I had this, kind of alpha negotiation, I might not have been the best snowboarder in the world, but I did really good deals for myself. I was kind of a ball buster negotiator and kind of had a reputation for being a bit of an asshole with the brands that I work with and extracting as many resources as I possibly could to my benefit. And that reputation actually benefited me once I kind of realized I got involved in a lawsuit with a prior sponsor. I got injured while on a photo shoot for them, and I essentially found a lawyer. They fired me. I found a lawyer who took me on a contingency. She made me do most of the work on my case. I had to she sent me home with homework, and through that process, I ended up winning that case in an arbitration. And that was really where the light went off for me, that this is a way for me to be in the service of others, in managing talent and helping them realize their potential. And that worked quite well for me, in the scope of my career. Yes. I still have that reputation. A lot of people don't like agents in the space, but we have a bit of a bad reputation, but I like to think that I'm one of the good ones.
Well, you do right by your athletes for sure. And you touched on my next question, actually, which really was in regards to the shift in the athletics landscape and how it has morphed over the years, politically, culturally, in regards to gender dynamics. How have you navigated that space over the years to create more balance and purpose in your work? And have the joys and challenges remained consistent, or have they also shifted in that time?
That's a really good question. I think I've softened in middle age. I think I used to be really angry at the imbalance in gender pay and equity in the spaces that I work in, particularly as I have evolved as an agent or an executive within a sports-driven organization that is, very male-dominated. There is a lot of inherent, misogyny. It continues to be inherent racism and some of these kind of structural challenges that we have, particularly in the current environment that we're dealing with in this current administration. I think I have always been, a little bit unorthodox in my approach to how I handle those kinds of dynamics. But I will say there was one kind of transformative moment in my career where Wasserman, which is the agency that I work with, and I'm just so happy to be with this organization that is very progressive in general and has been an incredible employer, gave me some executive counseling. I'm a little rough around the edges. I think that I have always had a little bit of, let's call it imposter syndrome, in that I didn't come up through a traditional, collegiate experience. I guess I've considered myself somewhat unsophisticated in the business landscape historically. I don't feel that way anymore. But I think that they saw the potential in me and got me some resources, which I just think is incredible. And we should all be doing that in mentoring people within our respective organizations, and how people should be given opportunity to realize their potential. And also, I think a lot of it was a timing thing for me. It was about personal accountability and understanding that I still have a lot to learn, and that doesn't mean that I don't belong here. It just means that maybe I need to do a little bit of work, because I was very angry. There was a lot of, and I think there was a lot of perception about me being angry, and even in how I was dealing with maybe some of my negotiations or how I handled myself in the business landscape. And that had worked for me to a certain point. And then it got to a point where it wasn't serving me anymore. I was just mad. Right? I was just mad about all these injustices. I was mad about the imbalance or the gender, dynamics, or the delta between pay for men and women, et cetera. And even just the dynamic within my own organization, feeling like I was a little bit oppressed by someone that I was someone I reported up to, who is no longer with us. Not dead, but no longer at the organization. But the executive counselor, this transformative moment, and I'll get back to that, was really that this counselor essentially told me that, listen, these kind of power structures and dynamics and all these things exist in the world. This is not going to change overnight. You are a part of a meaningful transformation of these industries, and you can't give up. You can't be so mad that you can't be solutions oriented. You have to be able to work around some of those things. And that was a total epiphany for me, and that I just had to continue to be creative to work around these challenges. I needed to whether it was building other relationships or finding solutions to problems or coming to the table with solutions or ideas, instead of just being pissed off. I think I was carrying so much of that rage. And then once I realized that rage wasn't serving me anymore, because I had relied on it so much, it was the tenacity that comes with that anger was serving me. And then it just got to a point where I just felt bad. And it wasn't actually solving problems. Yeah,
not as productive. And well, I love that solution-based shift for you. And I know that you do a lot of work to create a shift in that through uplifting women's sports and underprivileged communities. And as going back to International Women's History Month, I've watched over the years the work you have and continue to do in the women's space. What about the space right now intrigues you? Is there something that has surprised you? And where do you see women's sports going?
I mean, we're having such a moment in women's sports. It's like,
Yeah.
I just feel like this has been the fact that I get to participate in this moment in a meaningful way feels like my entire life's work. And it's interesting because I would say the majority of my clients are men or boys and have been historically, because I'm still on a revenue-based model. Like, how much money I bring in is how much money I take home, right? And so I have always had a portion of my business dedicated to women, and whether that's pro bono or a development program, as well as Black and Brown or First Nations kids. And that's because I see the disparity, and I know that the only way, going back to being solutions-oriented, I know that the only way for me to make the most impact in the work that I do every day is to bring down the barriers of entry for these kids. You know, these sports are expensive. To be a snowboarder, you have to have a wealthy family. And so for me to know that, you know, I'm very well connected, I have a lot of great male clients that have had wild success, and to be able to leverage that and all of those relationships to help bring down those barriers to entry are ultimately what get me out of bed every day. I'll look at a client and I know they're never going to make me a ton of revenue, but I know that I am leveraging all of those other things, all of those other relationships to bring opportunity. And that for me feels like a very direct way that I can help the next gen of these kids have these kinds of opportunities. And like one other thing that I would mention is that like I'm inherently anti-capitalist, and historically it's been very challenging for me because sometimes I'm dealing with, you know, businesses that I feel are unethical or not considering community, and especially in today's environment, you know, where I'm all about workers' rights. I'm all about, you know, what we need to do to uphold our communities and for everyone to have a quality of life, I think is so important. And there was a period of time where I was just like so challenged, like I'm dealing with brands that, you know, I won't shop at, that I don't want to consume products from or whatever in our consumerist culture. But being able to facilitate extracting dollars from those companies on behalf of someone who needs resources is a way for me to kind of balance that, the integrity that I hold within, and it feels like, you know, I'm doing a service in extracting those resources from them to help someone I care about.
Extract all the resources.
At least from them.
Yes. I love that, and I loved hearing about that, and I'm excited to see all the future the evolution in that part of your work. On a personal level, you have two amazing daughters, Ava and Hemingway, who both excel in their fields, soccer and ballet, respectively, and which are very different than snowboarding. And what parallels have you drawn in your journey of supporting them in their path that can also even translate to, we have a lot of college students in the audience. What are some of those transferable like moments of wisdom? And
for me, parenting was always about like, I don't care what you're doing as long as you're doing something. Like they could have picked anything as long as it was something that they were passionate about. And put them in a lot of different things that allowed them to finally kind of settle on something that really worked for them. You know, I think there's a few fundamentals that are true, and one thing that I often see now, just even with the youth, is challenges around, like, we live in a very abundant time. Right? Even though there's tons of disparity, there's so much abundance. There is too much abundance sometimes. There's so much consumption happening and people getting, you know, dopamine hits from, social media or from retail therapy or, all of these things, right? That are really just almost coping mechanisms of all of the challenges that we're having in our respective worlds. And so for me in parenting, so much of it was about like, there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be things that you have to work on. And it's like pushing through those things, doing your 10,000 hours of whatever it is that allows you to realize your potential and whatever it is that you choose, whether you're making art or whether you're working on a car or learning mechanics or learning how to program. Like all of those things require enough personal accountability to like what is actually required to be good at something, and not just thinking like, oh, you're inherently good at something, so it's all going to work out for you. It's like, no, like even the greatest artists of their time or the greatest, Formula One mechanics, have had to like do all of that work. And I think that it's just really important, and in parenting for me, understanding that like it took me more than 10,000 hours to be successful at anything. And that the measures of time and commitment and the willingness to be conscious of where your shortcomings are and to do the work in those areas that are required to be really good at something. It just takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, it takes commitment. And I think those things are applicable to anyone who really wants to be good at something, and to not just be like, oh, I got a shitty grade, so I don't like math. It's like, no, you just need a math tutor.
Put in the hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think that's such an incredible piece of advice and there was even a study, and probably many of them done, where students were asked to take one group was asked to take one perfect photo during the semester, and the other group was asked to take 100 photos. And at the end of the semester, it really turned out that the group that had taken 100 photos without trying to make it perfect had been able to yield phenomenal results versus the people that really focused on getting that one photo, but they were not putting in the time. They weren't putting in those hours to build into that.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of failures are what lead to success. And if you don't attach yourself to every failure or feel bad about it and instead go, okay, I just need to work a little bit harder, I think it's that kind of tenacity that allows for the evolution of a fully realized, creative or otherwise.
Make failure your friend. And get as much of the failure out of the way. And I think those hours actually probably get some of that done. And on the tail end, congratulations on your recently launched Nature Selections Tour. It has the 4 pillars of snow, skate, bike, and...
It's actually bike, surf, ski, and snowboarding. Yeah.
I got really carried away with myself. Sorry, guys.
All good.
We'll nail down. But can you share a little bit about that and how its unique nature-centric philosophy plays a role in it?
Yeah, so I think Travis Rice is a snowboarding client of mine. I've been his agent for 24 years or something crazy, so kind of co-parented him into all of his successful endeavors. And Travis is really quite a bit of a visionary. And for him, he really wanted to change the competitive landscape. We started with snowboarding, which was really like taking, like what we do in Big Mountain Freestyle, which is actually out in these, kind of remote areas and has historically been mostly made into film or content pieces because you are in such remote areas. And we applied that to a competition format, and we shot a competition live in the backcountry. And it's been wildly successful. I think the main pillars of us are that it's rider-driven in all of the genres, so athletes are intimately involved. We have very unique formats. They're more like bracket play. You watch a traditional contest these days and it's very boring. You kind of don't even know where the action is. And then third, and maybe most importantly, is the natural environments. Like for us, nature is the main character and everything else is kind of tangential, which is just so cool. We do a lot of like science or environmental education. We're very committed to sustainability, and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to protect the natural environments that we love to play or our playgrounds. It's been one of the great honors of my career to produce this. You can find it on Rebel TV. It's called the Natural Selection Tour. You can go to the URL naturalselectiontour.com.
And I love to hear you speak about that because I can feel you were also sharing when you first started snowboarding how much nature played such a huge role in your experience, and now you're getting to bring it all back. And
yeah, it's our hope that like people watch this who maybe don't even do these things, and can appreciate the environment, and that it's kind of an opportunity or a catalyst for a better understanding of what we need to do to preserve and fight for, public environmental spaces.
our existential planet.
Yes.
Is there anything else before we jump into Q&A that you'd like to share?
The only other thing that I wanted to say is that I am just so glad that my kids are a ballerina and a soccer player and not professional snowboarders. It's a lot safer.
I can imagine.
I can't believe I'm alive sometimes, quite honestly.
We're very happy you are, and we get to have you on the stage with us and for our community.
Make some noise for that taco. I love a little bit of existentialism too.
Bring it.
I mean, to say, not doing this, they say that. You know what I'm saying? And we're lying right now. It's really happening. And it is.
So just to respect everybody's time, and I know people are here, and he said it in at 10 o'clock, and I want to give people a chance to be able to go out and, respectfully be able to, make your exit as well. Oh, I got it at 10 o'clock. I got a little ADHD, so I need 10 o'clock. Alarm for no reason. It's time for no reason. It's just to know that it's 10 o'clock. Before it becomes like 2 o'clock, and I'm like, oh no, what do I do? So we're going to get into the Q&A. So we're going to be maybe 3 questions. Make sure the questions are aligned with the opportunity to Sarah said one of us is here just for today. So if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll go straight to you. I know there's a lot of questions, so it's going to be long.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Kyle, and I grew up skating, so I guess I'm trying to understand I feel like your job, your career, right? The weight of a contradiction of making money for people that never want to sub out. How do you work within that contradiction? Because for a lot of people, that's like their...
It's a great question, especially in skateboarding. I don't know. I think part of my job is helping skaters understand that you have this little window of opportunity to maximize earnings. It's not going to last forever. So you should do everything you can to make that work for you. And I'm just an information gatherer. Skaters make their own decisions about who they want to work with, and I just give them the information and let them decide. But I would say more often than not, money talks. It's you're being seen, brands want to work with you, and, your hope is that you don't ever have to go get a day job when it's all over. And so, it's my job to make sure, and it's a fine balance, right? There's certain deals that you could do that would compromise other deals that matter to you. So I think that really has to be your decision.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Hi, Circe. My question for you is, you're known for going to bat hard for your clients, as you mentioned. I'd love to know, how do you prepare for and navigate brand negotiations to maximize outcomes and extract the most value possible for your athletes and especially for women?
Well, I have the benefit of being with an agency that is very insightful in terms of gathering data. So I would say that one advantage that I have is being a part of a group that allows me information that I might not get otherwise. So we are doing a lot more data-informed negotiations. Now we know the power of women's sports. So, and we can use that as leverage when we're in meetings. We understand demographics. We have all of this information now that allows us to essentially help sell in opportunities, particularly for women right now, where historically that data hasn't existed. And we know certain things that are then going to give a brand an ROI in investing in women. And a big part of what we're doing at Wasserman and an internal group that we have called The Collective is making sure that we're best in class in gathering that information and utilizing it for the benefit of the evolution of women in sport. What else would I would say? I always say that like an athlete's market value is only determined by how much someone is willing to pay for them. And so again, it goes back to gathering information and then leveraging the information that you have to try to get the best deal possible.
Question?
Hello, thanks so much for the talk today. I'm really curious, you mentioned saying that you grew up with this anti-establishment mindset, but of course, process also plays into success. How did you kind of come to embrace some structure, and what did that look like for you?
I think the first time structure was actually imposed was when I tore my ACL and I was required to do physical therapy and a bunch of other stuff in the gym that I absolutely hated. It was like, why do I have to do this? This is not me. I just want to be out, playing in the streets or in the mountains. But then there was also something that came with that, which was understanding how your body heals, getting more in touch with my body in a way that was really meaningful. I started doing more mindfulness practice, like all of those things that were kind of transformative for me just coming into adulthood that made me realize like I had autonomy over my own body, how much work I was willing to do to get better, how nutrition played a part, like all of those things that were kind of like all happened at the same time for me in terms of coming in of age and then realizing the result of a structured environment, which really was how to heal my body, that then made me realize like, oh, I can go apply this to a lot of other aspects of my life. It just requires a little bit of diligence to get there.
Okay, last question.
Hi, my name is Arlo Perdomo, and I wanted to know how a new creative like myself that's still about to be finished with college soon, would be able to enter into the field that you are in to work under your agency and understand how to negotiate on better deals and actually working with better clients in bigger deals and know how to close and ensure protecting your own, but also protecting the people that you're working with and you're working for.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because the archetype of creatives oftentimes has a hard time on the business side of things. It's like there's a lot of ideation, there's a lot of vision, there's a lot of output of creative, but then like how do you apply that to negotiating for yourself or on behalf of a client? I think it's like a skill set just like anything else you need to hone. You need to learn negotiation tactics, maybe take a couple classes. If it doesn't come naturally, it's just like being creative, in terms of like visual arts or something doesn't come naturally for me. And I just never really pursued it because, I was like a byproduct of that. And I was like, yeah, that's not for me. But, it sent me down a different path. Had I wanted to be a creative or more kind of lean into that side of my life, I think, I would have taken a different path, right? I would have pursued that probably a little more without worrying so much about the business side of the things. And so I think it's just a matter of like doing the work to hone those skills. And as it relates to like finding job placement or whatever for you coming out of college, you have a creative degree, I'm assuming. I think, there are like creativity is still like, it was interesting. I just had this, I went to this conference and this guy who was the main speaker talked about like existential threats. He was like one of the world's greatest predictors of the things that we should be thinking about or I guess worried about into the future. And AI was like one of the big subject matters. And I went up to him after and said, hey, like, what can I do, to protect my job or my family from the rise of AI, which is definitely an existential threat for us. And what he said was really interesting, which was that creatives and artists are going to be okay because no one wants to see art made by a robot, and no one wants to see a competition between robots. And so that gave me like a lot of hope in a dark time that, creativity, good ideas, imagination, and creative output will still have value. And so how that fits into this kind of interesting time, I don't know. But, there's tons of internships. I think networking is important. I think if you are interested in the business side as well as the creative side, there's lots of opportunities for you to learn. I think it's just about finding the right place to fill in those gaps.
And we have one more last question.
Oh, hi. I just had a question because I know you said you had a program or something essentially that you were helping underprivileged kids or other children get into those types of nature and activities. The organization I have that's Takeover is a lot of BIPOC families who also have children looking to get into that. I just want to know how can I direct those families to you and what you do?
Well, I'm happy to give you my information and we can sidebar on that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. There was one gentleman who was wanting to make a question. Yeah.
He left.
I think he did, but then he came back.
I thought at 6'2", you would have saw me right off. You've got a certain energy that I find interesting. Maybe a bit older than a lot of folks here, but and I've been in sales off and on for a number of years. I guess my question to you is, where does that sort of grit and get at it coming for you when you're trying to impress upon somebody that you have something that they really need? For some reason, either for pride or for whatever it might be, they're saying, well, why is it that you know it? I've been doing it for this long. This has to be snake oil. Can you speak to that?
I mean, I guess my response to that would be, if I'm not the right fit for you, if you don't see what I bring, that's okay. This is, again, information gathering, and it's about relationships,
The inner strength for the next person and the same energy and the same.
Oh man, I lose clients all the time. It breaks my heart every time, right? Like I invest spiritually, emotionally, financially in anyone that I bring in to my orbit. And when they leave, it hurts every single time. But also it's just kind of, it's just like accepting failures. The only way that you can get to the other side is to keep trying. And I think I've gotten so much joy out of the people that I work with. And, I lost a client recently and it really broke my heart. But in retrospect, I kind of dodged a bullet in like bandwidth and time. And then after kind of considering all of that, I realized that it was a gift. It was a cosmic gift that I just needed a little bit of time to process. But I think so much of it is not getting defeated. It's so easy. And, I've had plenty of blue days, lot of sad things that happen in our everyday lives. We all have suffering. But it's like moving through that and coming out the other side with some optimism and just gratitude to be able to have this human experience in this human body in this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking us a question. And thank you for the service. I'm going to hand the mic over just to see if there's any last words that you want to drop.
Oh. Thanks, Ramel. Still getting the hang of this experience. But thank you so much, Circe, for sharing the inner workings and just how you have moved through your journey. I have always found it so inspiring, and I feel like the solution that you mentioned earlier, part of that was it's by you letting people be seen. You are building that, letting them witness it. And thank you for bringing that to all of us and letting us witness your journey for our inspiration and motivation.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a beautiful experience. I really appreciate it.